to, we're now talking about the Patriots again because you love them next season. Mike Vrabel has a lot of work to do to get this team back to the postseason. They do have Drake May, so they're in the right direction. But he spoke about the challenge of getting back to their winning ways yesterday at the Combine.
Our expectations aren't going to change. It's going to be to win the division. It's going to be to host home playoff games, and it's going to be to compete for championships. That's why we're here. That's why I got hired. And it's to win. It's to put a product on the field that they can be excited about, that they can care about, and they can support. Like, that's the whole goal. And they shouldn't have to wait very long. And but we also have to understand that we're not going to fix every issue on the first day of free agency, or we're not going to fill every hole on the first or second day of the draft.
Listen, they have the most cap space.
$128 million.
They will get minimum 3 starters out of the draft. Because they're lacking certain speed elements, they'll probably get 4 starters out of the... Now, think about this. I'll just throw this out. So was Jim Harbaugh worth a touchdown to the Chargers from Brandon Staley?
100%.
Okay, Gerard Mayo, like Staley, a little bit over his skis. So let's say this. Let's just say Vrabel is worth 3.5 to 4 points from Gerard Mayo. That feels true. Free agency with all that money is probably worth a point to a point and a half. Now you got 5.5 points better. The draft with 4 starters worth half a point. So if they are 6 points better than that's how Vegas would look at it. So if Vrabel's worth a little more than a field goal, you can go get a number 1 receiver. That's a point. You start looking around. Look at how many games they lost last year. You'd be amazed how many close games they lost by like 5 and 6 and 3 and 2 and 1 point. So I just think, I'm not saying, I don't know, what did they win 4 games last year?
Not many.
My take is they will be, remember I said Washington is going to surprise the league. They're going to be a wild card team. Vrabel's worth 4 to 4.5 points. The free agent class is worth a point to a point and a half. The draft class worth half a point. And by the way, the Jets losing Aaron Rodgers, that's 2 W's in New England.
Stop. Listen, I think the audience is going to start rooting against the Patriots because if you start hitting all these picks like 7 months in advance, then you're going to get a little bit of an inflated ego. If the Patriots hit on the heels of last year.
Like J.J. Redick, I have the self-awareness to understand I've got it.
Finals.
Okay. No, I really 100% see where Colin is coming from here. I think there's a couple interesting things that are happening in the AFC, as I talked about, as well, specifically about like the Raiders and whatnot. But I think the Patriots, I think Drake May, they're obviously going in the right direction, and I love the hire of Mike Vrabel. But what Colin is saying is right. It's like if they nail the draft, then yeah, I 100% agree. But it's just so hard to predict. Trying to predict the draft, and that's just something that I'm not going to be able to speak so strongly about, quite frankly. That's just not who I am. So I'm not going to kind of guarantee that. For me, it's like I'll feel more comfortable after I see how the draft actually goes. But going into last season, I was like, the Patriots, I just don't see them really doing anything. And a lot of Patriots fans got angry at me, and they didn't really do much of anything. But I really loved what I saw out of Drake May, and I agree even with Collins. It's obviously a little bit simplistic and reductionist but I do get it because I kind of use a lot of that similar logic as well. When you're this far off from the actual season and you're still kind of speculating where you're like, yeah, is Mike Vrabel at least worth? Is he worth at least 3 points? Yeah, he has to. He has to. Otherwise, there would be no reason to have him. So he has to be. He absolutely has to be. And if he proves not to be, well, then he's not a good coach. I mean, it really becomes that simple. So you have to imagine that. Drake May, just from last year to this year, if we believe him to be a good quarterback, I don't even want to start to get into the, to the elite, great, good. I just mean like an actual competent NFL quarterback who's going to continue to get better throughout, these next few seasons because he's obviously a young developing player. Is he not going to be worth a point or two more than he was in his rookie year? Again, he has to. He has to. If not, well, then he's the wrong guy. or just a slow developer. So that alone now completely changes games, completely changes everything. And yeah, I mean that alone puts you in an awesome spot, because Colin was talking about, oh, you bought this player, that player. Even if you just say that Vrabel and what he brings to just a general preparedness, as well as obviously defensive mind and whatnot. Let's just go with how Colin's kind of talking about, worth 4 points. Drake May has to be worth more, another 2 points. Again, that's 6 points right there. That's 6 points right there, and that's not including the draft, the weapons, anything of that like. So yeah, I 100% see it. Do I still think there's going to be some growing pains? Yes, but the benefit of what the Patriots have this year compared to what the Commanders had last season was that they had to really reintegrate. They had to welcome Jaden Daniels to the NFL, which is its own process. And granted, he was very experienced already, very, very, very mature. Drake May is younger, rawer of a talent. His skill set is very, a lot easier to translate into the NFL. Can be a little bit more independent and self-sufficient, but then also being able to work with Cliff Kingsbury, who had already had success from an offensive standpoint within the NFL. But Drake May has now already had his collection of games. Going into this next season, it's not going to be a surprise as to what the NFL is. And I think, when I see a quarterback like a Drake May, I think he will respond very well to the leadership and just the overall alphaness and the confidence of a Mike Vrabel. I really do. I think that dynamic should work really well. And something that I'm just increasingly getting higher and higher and higher on is just for these young quarterbacks, really the young and like the older quarterbacks, when you can just really build an awesome defense and allow these guys to just be more, I want to think of a better word than just a game manager, but just an operator of the offense. Really limit the risks, and again, even just keep it pretty simple and straightforward. Just knowing that you don't have to put up 28 plus points to win this game. It's just going to allow someone like a Drake May to be able to play very much within the system, within the flow of the game. And then when it is time to do some of the off-script stuff or kind of take chances down the field, it can be done in a way that is more intentional and less desperate. And when you can have your team be more intentional and less desperate, that's the place to be. When Caleb Williams had to do some of the off the script type stuff, it was coming from a place of desperation, from actual desperation. With Jaden Daniels, it was intentional. They had two wildly different rookie, seasons, completely wildly different. And those things matter. Those things matter. And obviously, in that example wasn't necessarily because of the defense, but it was just because of, again, how the games were unfolding and what each team was asking their quarterback. So that's what I just also think that Mike Vrabel, brings to this as well. And it's interesting because all of these teams that were playing poorly or just obviously not good enough, the common denominator among all those teams as to why I think they're going to be significantly better moving forward is because of their ability to play more complementary football. And I just think that is going to be able to do them wonders, because the Commanders were able to win last season and not really be able to play complementary football. They did put a lot on Jaden Daniels' plate, but it was still working from a place of like, yeah, you got to go out and win these games, but you don't necessarily have to just like really overcome an inadequate game plan and an inadequate defense to its core, right? Like this wasn't like an open door defense. They were still able to get key stops, force turnovers, etc., etc. And so that's why I think a team like the Commanders will be even better, because I think they're now going to be able to use the superpowers of a Jaden Daniels, but still rely now on a better defense. Because now that their defense is going to upgrade, you're going to be able to take a little bit less off the plate off of Jaden Daniels. And again, like I keep saying, it becomes a feedback loop. And I just feel as though that if the Patriots play their offseason right, that's kind of what you're looking to do. And quite frankly, that's kind of been consistent with what Mike Vrabel was able to do with the Tennessee Titans. Now, again, you could argue, is that the best way to win games at the highest level and to win Super Bowls, etc., etc.? I'd say the Chiefs proved that, and even the Eagles to a degree, although, you know, when push comes to shove, you need a little bit of both, obviously. It's not just, you know, one size fits all, but I just think I'm becoming, my philosophy is becoming more and more solidified. I feel as though with these young quarterbacks especially that, I used to say, like, oh, you really want an O-line, and now we'll talk about tight ends, which I also do believe in, obviously, but like at this point, I'm really kind of thinking defense, and just an O-line, probably more than anything. You know, who cares about the weapons? Who cares about anything? Defense, O-line, give the kid some time to just be able to think and put the kid in a position where he doesn't have to, you know, score touchdown after touchdown after touchdown and push the ball down the field just to keep up, right? Get some short fields, get him a turnover, get him the ball at the 40, you know, get him an extra possession, and just, you know, give him time in the pocket to like think for a second. And I think like that's going to be the winning formula. It's not going to be like, we got to get him a wide receiver, we got to get him speed on the outside, we got to get, and it's like, those are all great, obviously, but just defense, good field position, extra possessions, and an O-line to give him a second, and a leader to follow, and boom. And, you know, that's why I'm kind of excited to see how this all comes about for the Patriots. But I do think it's a pretty safe bet to kind of believe in them this coming season. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the New England Patriots? Do you think they're going to turn it around? Or do you think, honestly, Mike Vrabel is kind of like, no. Do you think he's trying to manage expectations right now? Or, like kind of like what kind of things are you reading between the lines in terms of like what he's saying as well? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.